Hi, folks. Hi, folks. You're with Tasso at your Pushback channel. And thank you for joining this radio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about it's a couple of things. Are white people about to become, or are they already, in a majority sense at least, becoming an underclass in their own country and already being viewed with contempt by, Chinese and Indians and Islamic people. Now, whether they perceive that white people are an underclass for spiritual, religious reasons, moral reasons, other reasons is almost by the by. But are the Western governments importing a class of people that already perceive themselves as superior to the local white folks? Just park that to one side for a moment. And there was an article that I saw where it had the top 100 university admissions allegedly on the best college graduation marks or scores and exams. And I say alleged strongly here, but out of the top 100, 45 were Chinese, 35 were Indian, as in subcontinent, and 20 were white. So only 20% of the top students end up being white, allegedly again. And of those, 13 were female and 7 were male. So I mean, you just get this side of the top. We're supposed to believe out of the top 100 students, being accepted to this quite reputable university, or prestigious rather than reputable. Only 7 were straight white male. I don't know if they were straight or not, but only 7 were white males. Yeah, right. Yeah, like I really believe that. Now, bear in mind the education sector is torn to pieces with wokeness, so we can't believe anything that comes the fuck out of there. But nonetheless, that sort of indicates or illustrates the extent to which and how far the corruption of our education institution goes. Now, I'll add a couple of other things. Certainly by my experience, and I've travelled widely around Asia and in fact around the whole world. So I've worked with, worked alongside with, and done business with, bought and sold goods and services with people from all over the world as well. So if I'm told that Indians, for example, are terribly clever and terribly bright, then I have never discovered that in working alongside them. Urbane and sophisticated as the Brahmins are, and philosophically sort of pleasant to chat to and muse about the universe and its possibilities, sure, yeah, but to actually work alongside them in getting things done and making things happen and putting things into practical action, then no, they're not bright at all, the Indians. So, or again, if they are, it's it must be only the people I never met that are the geniuses. And, in terms of working alongside Asians as well, whether they be Chinese or Koreans, Japanese, it doesn't matter. Do I see the genius there? No, the Japanese to some extent, I guess, but they're, as in organisational, structurally, that they're quite good. The ability to quickly move in one direction with all the necessary resources and organisational structure, they're quite impressive, the Japanese, in that sense. Koreans maybe to some lesser extent. A lot of that actually comes from what they learned during the time of when Korea was a Japanese colony. In terms of the Chinese, then no. It's something very specific and straightforward. If a narrow set of rules and you point them at it and give them all the education, then they can be kind of impressed in that very narrow, blinkered, tunnel vision sense, but not outside of it. But are they good students? I don't doubt that, actually, because the Asian sort of motto is you don't need to understand what you're talking about, what you're doing. You just need to swat up like hysterically before the exam, and and pass the exam. So it's very much a rote learning thing. Japanese are the same actually in that, and I'm rather impressed with how they do it. And I've watched the Chinese students here in Australia, for example, or elsewhere. Yeah, it could be in Singapore or somewhere like that, Hong Kong, where the parents send the children to cramming schools before an exam, and they'll spend all day. They'll start early and finish late. But the parents are absolutely unswerving in the pressure they put on the children to cram. And I've seen one instance here in Australia where I think it was maybe third year high school, second year high school or something, where the kid was supposed to go to a cramming school, but didn't, and went off and did something else doing that. And the mother found out about it, and she went ballistic, hitting the kid over the head, and brutal treatment that would land her in prison if the authorities sort of saw that. But anyway, this is now. Do the parents do this because they want the kids to do well for the kids' benefit? No, interestingly not. With these maybe not Japan so much, but certainly China and India. The idea of your kids doing well, having a good job on a good pay, is so they'll look after you when you get old. Um, they're not doing it for the kids' benefit, or that they want the kids to do well, or the kids to do better than they did, or have a good life themselves. The sole idea of this, or the sole concept of beating the kids over the head and telling them you got to swat, you got to cram, you got to do well in these exams, get a good job, and go to a good university, and all this sort of stuff. That's so that the parents will get looked after when they're aged and infirm. It's quite a perverse motivation in reality. But all this cramming, and I admire people that can rote learn like that. I mean, I can if I'm pushed, but I've got a sort of semi-photographic memory anyway, so it's not that hard for me. But these kids, they do the cramming and they come out, they answer the questions, but they have the ability to answer questions with the prescribed or the proper answer without actually understanding anything that they're talking about or commenting on or answering. And I think that's a real skill. Even for the rote learning side of it, or I needed to understand what it was that I was doing. But they don't need to, and that's an interesting sort of intellectual bypass from reality there. That these again, Japanese, Chinese, and some Indians, even I'd say some of the Middle Easterners, like say some of the Iranians, that sort of thing. They can do that as well, which is. Which again is something I find difficult. I just need to understand what it is I'm talking about, which, by the way, is one of the key differences with Western students. Now, I've obviously worked with white people all over the world, whether it be Europe and the United States, of course here in Australia, New Zealand, and elsewhere. Have I found the Indian people, even in the West, or certainly in India, who are supposed to be brilliant students, or Chinese or Japanese, I found to be better to do business with, more informed, making better decisions? That's no. In fact, quite the opposite. I've found Indians have been, in my view, quite incompetent from a business perspective. They've got monopolies, oligopolies, corrupt practices, and all these sort of things. But and they seem to think that's doing clever business. Chinese, I've never found them impressive at all in business, far from it. And the Middle Easterners, again, actually, look, I'll say there was a couple of Iranians I've actually was rather impressed with. So I'll put that out there. But generally, no. So I've always viewed it much easier to deal with white people in business. Not because of any racism or any silly accusations of that sort of stuff, but because they understand it. They're better at understanding it. They're better at understanding the wider ramifications. They're better at thinking through the practical realities that will have to be dealt with when you adopt or go down any course of action or go down a particular path or so on. So now again, I've done business all over the world. I don't care what colour someone's skin is. I really don't care. How difficult is it to do business is the sole thing. And even for people that have been born in the West or came at a young age, be they Indians or Chinese or something, I've still found that they're more difficult to do business with. Nor is it a matter simply of trust. When you've got to do business internationally across all different races and cultures, you tend to focus on the business. I don't care where someone's from. I don't care about any of those. They're not material to doing the business. Now, they may be little bit different. They may view Whitey with suspicion, not because they are actually suspicious, because they fear that they're not equal to the task and they'll fuck it up and then they'll lose face. The Chinese in particular are consumed with those sort of notions. The Indians are also consumed with the idea of they have to sort of have that moral sort of superiority. You have to accept them as moral, spiritual superiors before they'll sort of really embrace you to any extent. In fact, embrace is probably an overstatement. It's that they have to feel that you're acknowledging them as superior before they'll move forward. If you don't, it's like a penalty that you have to pay for not embracing their superiority, and they refuse to do business with you and just find someone who will. Also, there's a particularly view of the Indians. It's a real chip on the shoulder thing of, how do I know you're not screwing me? The only way I can know that is if I'm screwing you. And so they have that sort of real chip on shoulder thing, which again makes them, in my view at least, difficult to do business with. And certainly I've got a lot of experience in that department. But now coming to this this thing of the Indians and Chinese are so bright, and then they're now the master races in Australia, according to these university entrance numbers at least. Now, if that is the case, why, or if that is so, why is India a basket case, an economic, social basket case? Now, they say it's not a failed state, but it's got to be as close to being a failed state without actually being a failed state. I would call it a failed state, in my view. When you've got 1 billion plus poverty-stricken peasants there that have been there for well over 1,000 years, then you've got a failed state. Now, if these people, the Indians, are so intelligent and gifted, and pass exams, and they're way smarter than any white guy and this sort of stuff, if that is so, why the fuck is India a basket case, has been, continues to be, and in my view will always be a basket case, economically and social, unstable in so many ways. Why if they've got all these supremely intelligent people just everywhere you look, why do they continue to be a basket case? Same for China. There's still hundreds of millions of impoverished peasants living in China. Sure, there's a corrupt elite that are doing very nicely, thank you, and buying up hundreds upon hundreds of properties in Australia and elsewhere in the West. And you see 19-year-old Chinese college students here in Australia driving $500,000 fucking Maseratis and everything. I'm sure that's merit based, but. Why is it, if these people are so bright, can't they organise their societies and be richer, overall and per capita, more so than the West, without the West transplanting all their manufacturing and other stuff over there for the enrichment of a small Western elite? Organically, the Chinese and the Indians, are still impoverished third world countries. Japanese are different. They were very successful at going from a third world country to a second level mid-tier country, and then to a first one. They did very well at that, so they have to be congratulated for those achievements. But the others, no. Now let's come back to these 100 people, like the 45 Chinese and 35 Indians and 20 white people, of which only 7 were males. This is a reflection of nothing more than the globalist plan for crushing the West and crushing white Western society. What, only 7 guys could get 7 white guys could get in the top 100? Oh, excuse me. So what's happening here is clearly that they're loading the dice And given that the majority of the top 100 are women and this sort of thing, it's just clearly saying, well, we're going to promote the minorities, and we're going to go to any artificial means we want to create that artificiality, and we're going to do it this way, and we're going to use the education system to artificially put these people forward. Now, again, if they are bright, I don't doubt they're good at cramming, by the way, and spotting up. I don't dispute that. But if they are that bright and capable, then why isn't that reflected in their own societies? Or why are they not um, uh, higher achievers here in the West, if indeed they're so bright, brighter than any white person could be. So clearly they're not. Clearly this is artificial, but it goes to show the extent to which the education establishment in the West is completely corrupted. I mean, their only purpose now is to deny white people any merit-based opportunities. They have no purpose other than that. Nor are they picking the brightest. Brown and Asian people, brown, black and Asian people. They're not even picking the brightest there. They're just promoting on the basis of some deluded notions of equity. If the brightest people were there, then they would go on to achieve outside of the passing of an exam. Now the exams are even not sort of strictly pass or fail anymore in the West. They're heavily loaded with various assessments and weightings and that sort of thing to artificially alter outcomes. But it must be driving the globalists insane that in spite of denying white people, especially white men, the most prestigious university, especially denying them accolades and so on. In spite of that, the brown and black people still can't outperform the white folks. Must be driving them crazy. But again, the extent of the corruption, and for someone who's been around the world and done business with all these people, I don't see I have never noticed as I'm going around the world. I've never noticed, wow, those people are bright. Wow, they're really capable. Whoa, they put white people to shame. I have never seen that, ever, at any stage. I've always perceived, certainly in business at least, I've always perceived that white people have a much better grasp of the issues and much more capable commercially in doing business and far more sensible and practical in about it. And I found that universally so. Not that there aren't stupid, dumb white people, there are. But as a general rule, I found it far easier to do business in white countries than white majority countries than anywhere else. But there's going to be far fewer, I think, or no white majority countries over the next 25 years. The globalists are hell bent on destroying all white majority countries, and they're going about it at a frantic pace. Coming back now to the issue I mentioned at the beginning about white people becoming an underclass in their own societies. And if we look at South Africa, the blacks have just taken over in a completely non-meritorious, completely corrupt, delusional Marxist equity type thing. So white people have been relegated to an underclass there and treated as much. Now, in an area, I was there recently. I did a video in it, but there was something that I sort of forgot to mention that perhaps I should have. When I was going through the shopping centre, white people are a minority, I think around 10% or thereabouts, and just looking at the way that the shop owners, people working in the shop, and even the way I was treated when I went into a shop, it seemed to be, I could be wrong, but it seemed to be that the Indians, particularly the Indians, but also the Chinese to a lesser extent, were treating the white people as an underclass. The look of contempt and dismissal on the face of, again, more the Indians than the Chinese, but the look of dismissal and contempt as they looked at the white people or interacted with them, whether it be at the food hall where they were, a white person was getting some food, or or even in a shop, a basic shop assistant or shop clerk. I noticed that. No, I went in to get something at a shop, and it had it listed on their website. It was available, but uh, the the owner of the shop, or the manager, was an Indian woman, probably in her 40s, and there was a junior Indian there, very chip on shoulder, and without a word being said, I came up as that can I help you sort of thing, but it was dripping with can I help you, motherfucker? It was dripping with that sort of attitude. And I didn't misread that. It was it was in your face, and as if this is our country now, white boy. You've got no right to be here. It was really that sort of thing. Which now I just wanted to buy what I needed to buy, so I didn't want to have a pissing contest with some punk shop assistant. So well, do you have this? I can't see it, and. I got well, if it's not there, we don't have it. Stop wasting my time. And so I made the mistakes, and well, actually, it's on the website. It says that, and the look on the face was, "Don't you question me, white boy." Now this is a girl that's like, less than half my age, and I was quite surprised at the dismissive nature. So I think white people are already viewed as an underclass in many places in Australia now, and that's kind of scary. Now, if I look at when Australia will become absolutely white minority, that'll be the time when I'll probably they'll be carting me off to an old folks home, and I'm looking at it now thinking, holy shit, do I really want that? How am I going to be treated in the old folks home? It's not a comforting thought. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.